I'm standing in what used to be our $13 million Manhattan penthouse, the kind of place that used to hum with champagne laughter and piano music at midnight. Now it's silent. The air smells of paper and endings. In one hand, divorce documents. In the other, our wedding video. The city lights smear across the windows like ghosts of better days. My name is Adrian Vale, and 3 days ago, I believed I had life neatly arranged, a beautiful wife, a spotless reputation, and a skyline that seemed to bow when I looked out from my office. Now I'm watching a grainy clip that's undoing everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty in the last decade of my life. Adrian, look closer, I whisper to myself, rewinding the video again. There in the corner of the screen, half hidden by flowers and white linen, a man holds a camera, filming us. I've never seen him before, though I've watched this video a dozen times, through anniversaries and lonely nights. His equipment bears a faded label that freezes my blood. NYPD evidence, 2014, case 7739. My phone buzzes. Unknown number, 2:03 a.m. Nothing good ever begins at that hour. Mr. Vale, a voice rasps gravel and smoke. Name's Rowan Keene, retired FBI. I've waited 10 years to have this talk with you. I grip the phone tighter. Who are you? I'm the man in your wedding video, son. The one you just noticed. And before you hang up, your wife, Ilara, isn't who you think she is. She never was. The room sways. I sink into the leather chair where Ilara once curled up on Sundays, glasses sliding down her nose as she read investor reports. That's impossible, I manage. I know my wife. Do you? He asks. Then you know she stole $30 million before she ever met you? Or that Ilara Voss isn't her real name? The penthouse tilts, or maybe it's me. Manhattan glows beneath the windows, gold and merciless. It's the same view she once called our empire. 3 days ago, she'd confessed that our marriage had been a game. A dare, she'd said, smiling like a victor counting her winnings. 10 years, Adrian. You never suspected a thing. I thought that was the cruelest truth I'd ever hear. I was wrong. Rowan's voice is low, steady. The dare was real, but it was just a cover. Your wife is a career con artist and you are her masterpiece. He gives me a time and place, a diner in Queens, 9 a.m. Come alone, he says. Why should I trust you? Because in 6 hours, you'll see it yourself. Check your offshore accounts, the ones she convinced you to open for tax flexibility. You'll find ghosts where your millions used to be. The call ends. My reflection stares back at me from the black glass, eyes hollow, mouth slightly open like a man mid-drowning. Somewhere across the city, Ilara is probably asleep, her silk sheets, her calm breathing, her perfect illusion intact. When she left, her words had burned into me. You were easy to love, Adrian, too easy. Men like you build walls of money and mistake them for safety. She knew how to find the cracks. My father, Graham Vale, lost everything in a fraudulent fund when I was 25. He died 2 years later, shame carved into his heart like scripture. I spent the next decade rebuilding what he lost, one ruthless deal at a time. And Ilara, she studied that hunger like a scientist, then fed it back to me as love. The video keeps playing. We're at the altar. She's crying. I'm beaming. My mother wipes her eyes. My brother, Theo, grins like a man who believes in happy endings. And there, in the far corner, the stranger films it all, waiting 10 years to tell me that my life was a setup. I call Theo. He answers on the third ring, voice heavy with sleep. Adrian? It's 2 in the morning. What's going on? Everything's gone, Theo, I say quietly. Everything. 3 days ago, I stood 40 floors above Central Park, toasting the biggest victory of my career, a $200 million project that would turn forgotten blocks into glass kingdoms. I thought I'd built a legacy. I didn't know it was already crumbling beneath me. Adrian, the Garrison Group signatures just came through. My assistant Jenna announced, sliding the thick stack of contracts across my desk. Congratulations. This makes you one of the top 5 developers in Manhattan. Her words should have felt like triumph. Instead, they landed like an echo, hollow, delayed. Still, I smiled, the reflex of a man trained to perform confidence. The ink was barely dry before I called Ilara. She picked up on the second ring, her voice velvet wrapped around steel, that trace of old Boston refinement she never quite shed. Hello, darling, she said. How's your day, baby? We did it, I told her. The Garrison Group signed. $200 million. We're set for life. There was a pause, the kind that opens like a crack in marble. That's wonderful, Adrian, she said finally. Actually, perfect timing. We need to talk when you get home. My chest tightened, but I ignored it. About what? Should I pick up champagne? Just come home, Adrian, she said. We'll talk then. That tone, I should have recognized it, a warning disguised as calm, but back then I was still drunk on victory. Ilara had always known how to steal a moment and make it hers. 10 years earlier, she'd done exactly that at a charity gala my mother hosted, the Vale Foundation's spring soiree, the night the city first whispered her name. The auctioneer had barely opened the floor when a voice rose from the back of the ballroom, cool and confident. $50,000, she said. The crowd gasped. The bid had started at 500. I remember standing under the chandeliers of the Plaza Hotel, bachelor number 12 in a rented tuxedo, watching a woman in a black gown raise her paddle like she was claiming not a man but a destiny. Did she just say 50,000? My brother Theo whispered. He'd been bachelor number 11, sold for 3,000 to a bored socialite from the Upper West Side. Guess that woman just bought you like a prize horse, he muttered. The room buzzed, but Ilara didn't flinch. She looked straight at me, eyes like dark glass, unblinking. My mother, ever the queen of Manhattan philanthropy, was ecstatic. Who is she? She asked the coordinator. Ilara Voss, Harvard MBA, old Boston money, just transferred to New York, works for the investment branch at Sterling and Wren. I should have known then, people like her don't walk into your life. They design their entrance. That first dinner she bought was at Le Jardin, a place I couldn't have afforded in a dream. She ordered a bottle of wine that cost more than my rent, and halfway through she looked across the table and said, You're going to own this city. Adrian Vale. I can see it in your hands, how you talk, how you look at blueprints like they're poetry. No one had ever spoken to me that way. She didn't pity me when she brought up my father, Graham Vale, the man whose name became shorthand for financial ruin. She said it plainly, like she was analyzing a market trend. I know what happened to him, she said, swirling her wine. He believed too easily. But you'll turn that wound into something that conquers. How do you know about my father? I'd asked. She smiled, raised her glass. I do my research, Adrian. I don't bid $50,000 without knowing exactly what I'm buying. 6 months later, I was on one knee at the Rainbow Room, offering her a diamond that nearly bankrupted me. She said yes before I even finished the sentence. The wedding was everything New York society worshipped: chandeliers, imported orchids, a quartet from Juilliard. My mother beamed. My uncle Clarence Vale, a federal judge, whose approval I'd chased my entire life, clasped my shoulder. She's good for you, he said. Solid. The kind of woman who'll keep you honest. I've seen enough liars in my courtroom to spot one a mile away. For 10 years, I believed him. Together, Ilara and I built an empire: the penthouse on Fifth Avenue, the glass house in East Hampton, the art, the cars, the club memberships that once denied my father. Whenever I mentioned children, she'd smile that patient smile and say, Let's build our empire first. Then we'll bring life into it. I want our children to have everything you never did. It sounded noble. It sounded right. Until 3 days ago, when she sat across from me at the marble kitchen island, divorce papers in front of her, and told me that our entire marriage had been a bet. That she'd stayed exactly 10 years to claim half of everything. And the worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was how calm she looked when she said it, like she was closing out a ledger, like she'd already moved on to her next investment. When I got home that night, something in the air had changed. The penthouse still looked immaculate, curated, calm, but the silence felt rehearsed, like a stage waiting for its final act. The faint scent of Ellery's Joe Malone candles lingered, but sharper now, almost sterile. She was sitting in the living room, perfectly poised in a cream cashmere dress, 2 glasses of wine glinting on the table beside a manila folder. The sunset poured through the floor to ceiling windows, washing everything in molten gold. Yet somehow, the light felt cold. Sit down, Adrian, she said gently, patting the cushion beside her on our Italian leather sofa, the one we'd bought at that Milan auction during our 5th anniversary trip. I loosened my tie, smiling faintly, exhausted but triumphant. If this is a toast, I'll need the wine. She moved her glass out of reach. You'll want to be sober for this. The words landed wrong, too calm, too certain. Are you sick? I asked. Ilara, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong, she said, opening the folder with those immaculate hands that had signed 1,000 deals beside mine. I'm perfectly fine. The papers inside gleamed white under the light, legal, crisp, merciless. These are divorce filings, she said, already submitted this morning. I'm taking the penthouse, the Hamptons estate, and half of all liquid assets. My attorney says given the prenup's terms after 10 years, it'll be straightforward. It took me several seconds to understand that she wasn't joking. Ilara, what are you talking about? My voice broke on her name. Is there someone else? We can fix this. Whatever it is, we can fix it. She laughed in a sound I'd never heard before. Not her light champagne laugh from charity galas, not her warm, half-sleep giggle from Sunday mornings. This laugh was something metallic and cruel. Oh, Adrian, she said softly. Sweet, oblivious Adrian. There was never anyone else because there was never really an us. I stared at her, the world narrowing into static. I don't understand. She rose and walked to the window, her reflection merging with the glittering skyline, the queen of an empire built on deceit. Do you remember the gala where we met? She asked. The night I bid $50,000 for dinner? Of course, I said, the memory clawing its way back. It was the beginning of everything. No, she said. It was the beginning of a bet. She turned then, and the woman I'd loved for a decade was gone. In her place stood someone clinical, detached, almost amused. My friends and I made a wager during our final semester at Harvard Business School, she said. The challenge was simple. Marry someone worth over 10 million. Stay married exactly 10 years to maximize the divorce payout. Then walk away with half. First one to succeed wins bragging rights in the case of vintage Dom Perignon. My breath caught. You're saying our marriage, our life was for a bet? She tilted her head. Don't be melodramatic. It was about more than champagne. It was about proving a point that marriage is just another form of leverage. That love is a market and people are its currency. You just have to know which weaknesses to invest in. She sat back down, this time across from me, the manila folder between us like a grave marker. You were perfect, she said. Ambitious but insecure. Still haunted by your father's failure. Desperate to be respected by a city that once mocked your name. Handsome enough to make the decade tolerable. Intelligent enough to build the wealth I needed, but not quite perceptive enough to see what I was doing. Each word sliced clean. She reached for her phone, scrolled, and handed it to me. On the screen, a group chat dated 10 years and 3 months ago. Madison, Ilara's actually doing it. 50K to marry a stranger? She's insane. Alexandra, 10 years is a long time to pretend. Charlotte, this is wild. Ilara, trust me, it'll be worth it. Adrian Vale is going places. In 10 years, I'll be set for life, and you'll all owe me that dam. My legs trembled. I stood, but the room tilted, a carousel of betrayal and disbelief. Everything? I asked quietly. Every I love you? Every kiss? Every night we shared? Not everything had to be faked, she said with chilling calm. I did enjoy parts of it, the lifestyle, the attention. You're actually quite good in bed, which helped, and your devotion made things easier. I stared at her, the woman who'd held my mother's hand through chemo, who'd whispered prayers beside her hospital bed. What about my mother? I asked, voice breaking. You cried with her. I'm an excellent actress, she said. Tears are easy. And Paris? I whispered. You said that was the happiest week of your life. It was a lovely hotel, she said. The shopping was excellent. I felt something inside me fracture. The prenup, I said finally. My lawyer said it was ironclad. For the first 5 years, yes, she replied. After that, the protections weaken. After 10, they vanish entirely. Your lawyer was competent. Mine was better. I planned this timeline before I even met you. She stood calm as ever and crossed to the hallway. 3 Louis Vuitton suitcases waited by the door, perfectly lined up like obedient soldiers. I'll be at the Kirill Hotel. My attorney will contact you tomorrow. Elara, please. I stepped forward, desperate, humiliated. 10 years, how can you just walk away? She paused, hand on the doorknob. You know what's funny, Adrian, she said, turning just enough for the light to catch her face. You never even questioned it. Then she was gone, leaving behind only her perfume, the empty glasses, and a silence too heavy to breathe in. A beautiful woman bids $50,000 on you at a charity auction, and you accept it as destiny. My ego did the rest. I wanted so badly to believe I deserved someone like her that I never asked why she chose me. When Elara closed the door that night, it was almost gentle, yet the sound carried through the penthouse like a gunshot. For 2 days, I didn't leave. The skyline outside glittered like a cruel audience while I wandered through the apartment that had become both shrine and prison. Every object, her perfume on the dresser, a lipstick print on a wine glass, hummed with the residue of a lie. I didn't eat. I didn't shower. I only moved from room to room as if I could excavate the truth from air thick with ghosts. Noah was the first to find me. He used his spare key, muttering my name until he saw me surrounded by photo albums and contracts spread across the study floor, 10 years of marriage dissected like an autopsy. Jesus, Adrian, you look like hell. Did you know? I asked. Did anyone? He shook his head. Mom's been calling nonstop. Judge Wren can't believe it. He keeps saying he should have seen it coming. Nobody knew, man. She fooled everyone. She planned it for 10 years, I murmured. Every morning coffee, every late night talk, every I love you. Noah gripped my shoulders. You need to pull yourself together. We'll fight this. There's got to be a loophole. With what money? Everything's frozen. She timed it perfectly right after the Garrison deal. The cash is sitting there waiting for her signature. Then we prove fraud, he said. The marriage was built on deceit. I laughed, sharp, broken. Proof she didn't love me? There's no legal language for that. She'll say feelings changed. When my mother arrived an hour later, her composure was gone. Margaret Vale, who never wept during my father's downfall, or her own chemo, looked fragile, undone. I introduced you, she whispered. I told you she was good for you. I'm so sorry, Adrian. It's not your fault, I told her, though guilt had already rooted deep in me. She would have found another door, if not yours. But the question lingered, how can someone pretend for so long? That night, unable to sleep, I opened our wedding video on my laptop. Maybe I wanted to punish myself with evidence of my own blindness. There we were, Elara, laughing with her bridesmaids, me fussing with Noah's boutonniere. The ceremony glowed in gold light. She walked down the aisle like something celestial, and I watched the recording of myself gazing at her as though she were redemption. Then I noticed him, a man in the background, always on the edge of the frame, not one of the hired photographers. Middle-aged, in a black suit that whispered law enforcement. His camera was wrong, too utilitarian, not artistic. I paused, zoomed in. A label peeked through the reflection. NYPD evidence, 2014 to 7,739. My pulse thundered. I combed through every clip, every photo. The same man appeared again and again, 13 times. Always filming, always watching. I called Noah. Get over here, now. He arrived half awake, coat over pajamas, eyes widening at the paused frame on my screen. Who the hell is that? I don't know, I said, but I'm going to find out. Before he could answer, my phone rang unknown number. Adrian Vale, I said. The voice on the other end was rough, exhausted. Mr. Vale, my name is Marcus Hale. I'm a retired FBI agent. I heard about your divorce through some old channels. I think it's time we talked. About what? About your wife, he said. About why I was at your wedding 10 years ago with an evidence camera. And about the $30 million she stole before she ever met you. The air vanished from the room. Your wife isn't who you think she is, Marcus continued quietly. Her real name isn't Elara Voss. It's Elara Martin, and she was the primary suspect in one of the largest investment fraud cases in Boston's history. We never proved it, but we knew. So what? I said, my voice a thin thread holding back panic. You've been watching us for 10 years? Watching her, Mr. Vale, Marcus replied. You were collateral, but now that she's making her move filing for divorce, blending your legitimate money with her stolen millions, you've become our best chance to stop her. My heart thudded painfully. What do you want from me? I want to meet, he said. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Queens Boulevard Diner. Come alone. Bring the wedding video. And Mr. Vale, he paused, as though choosing the next words carefully, check your Cayman Islands investment account tonight. The one Elara insisted you open for tax purposes. You'll find it educational. The line clicked dead. Noah and I stared at each other across the dim room, faces pale in the glow of the laptop. Neither of us spoke. There was nothing to say that didn't sound insane. I logged into the Cayman account, fingers trembling. It took 3 password resets before the page loaded. When the balance appeared, I froze. The account wasn't empty, it was overflowing. Tens of millions in deposits from sources I didn't recognize, all time-stamped over the last decade. Offshore shell companies, wire transfers looping through Liechtenstein, Dubai, Sao Paulo, patterns too intricate for coincidence. Shouldn't have stolen, she'd woven. Every business deal, every investment I thought I'd made, she'd been threading her own architecture of deceit through it all, using me as the face of legitimacy. I leaned back, the air in my chest sharp as ice. She used me, I whispered. Not just for money, for structure. She built her empire under my name. Noah stepped closer, whispering like we were already being recorded. Adrian, this is bigger than a divorce. This is federal. And for the first time in 10 years, I realized Elara hadn't left me. She'd completed the final phase of her plan. The Queens Boulevard diner looked like a set built for regret. Cracked vinyl booths, the stale perfume of burnt coffee, a jukebox that hadn't worked since the Clinton era. The kind of place where people came to confess or disappear. Marcus Hale was already there, in the back booth. The same man from the wedding footage, only time had hollowed him out. His hair was gray now, his eyes the color of insomnia, and his blazer looked like it had survived more interrogations than laundromats. He rose when I approached, his handshake like gripping a verdict. "Mr. Vale, appreciate you coming," he signaled to the waitress. "Coffee, black, for both." I sat, placed the wedding video's USB drive between us like evidence at a trial. "Start talking." He slid a folder across the table, edges frayed, paper thick with ghosts. "Your wife's real name is Elara Voss, actually. Elara Martinelli, born in Southie, not Beacon Hill. Father, a small-time bookie who got himself killed when she was 10. Mother, 3 jobs, 1 eviction notice away from nowhere." He turned another page. "The Harvard degree is genuine. Everything else is smoke. The accent, the lineage, the so-called Mayflower bloodline all constructed." He pushed the photograph forward. It was her. Younger, mugshot lighting, Boston PD 2011. "Arrested for fraud," Marcus said quietly. "Charges dropped when witnesses vanished. Not dead, just relocated. She was talented, even then." He opened the second file. 2013. Meridian Capital, Boston. Affair with a senior partner, Malcolm Webb. Gained access to his passwords. Client list spread 30 million across 6 months. Small withdrawals, spread thin. By the time the audit hit, she was gone. "And you couldn't catch her?" I asked. "She was a ghost," Marcus said. 17 shell companies across 9 countries. We could trace her patterns, but not her fingerprints. Then she shows up in New York under a new name, new pedigree. 50 grand to blow at a charity auction. We knew it was her, but knowing isn't proof. "So you've been watching us, watching her our entire marriage." "Not constantly," he said, "but enough to know the marriage to you was genius. You gave her legitimacy. Your mother's reputation. Your Uncle Judge Wren made her untouchable. No one questions the wife of a man with that kind of pedigree." The name burned in my throat. He vouched for her. "She knew he would," Marcus said simply. "Your family was her perfect camouflage. But greed ruins even perfect plans. The divorce filing triggered automatic financial audits. That's when we saw it." He turned the laptop toward me. Bank statements glowed cold on the screen. "These are from your Cayman account," he said, the one she insisted on. At first glance, they looked routine until the pattern emerged. Transfers looping through countries like a spider weaving silk. Deposits that never matched my projects. "She's been laundering the original 30 million through your earnings," Marcus said. 10 years of tiny deposits. Clean now. Half of it legally yours. She walks away with 15 million in laundered funds plus half of your actual fortune. My stomach turned. "So, I'm implicated." "Not if you help us," he said, voice low. "You're the victim here. The IRS will ask questions, but we can make them disappear. What we need is her confession." "How?" "You'll call her. Say you want to talk. Offer to negotiate the divorce. You'll wear a wire." By the next afternoon, I was standing in my bedroom while federal agents taped a microphone to my chest. The adhesive felt colder than guilt. Just get her talking, Marcus told me. She's arrogant now. Arrogant people trip on their own reflection. At precisely 3 o'clock, Ilara arrived flawless as ever, wrapped in a tailored St. Laurent suit that made sin look like strategy. She took her usual chair by the window, crossed her legs, poured herself wine from our Venetian crystal decanter. "I'm glad you're being reasonable, Adrian," she said, her voice a calm blade. "I knew you were too smart to make this messy."
My throat was dry sandpaper. "I just want to understand," I said. "Was any of it real?" Ilara smiled, a slow, deliberate curve that almost looked human. "You want the truth?" she said, swirling her wine. "Fine. The bet with my friends was real," Ilara said. "But it was also my cover story for something bigger. I needed a new life after Boston, and you were perfect. Successful enough to build a new fortress, damaged enough from your father's scandal to never check the foundation." "The hedge fund money," I said quietly. "The 30 million. Her eyes flickered, just once, like a spark between storms. "What about it?" "I know about Malcolm Webb, Meridian Capital. I know your real name is Ilara Martinelli." She set her wineglass down with the precision of someone handling an explosive. "How?" "The man from our wedding, Marcus Hale, FBI. He's been watching you for 10 years. Her body stilled. Then she began backing toward the door. "You're wearing a wire." 10 years, Ilara. I deserve to know, was any of it real?" She stopped, one hand on the handle, and for the first time since that night began, she looked human. Not the con artist, not the strategist, just a woman caught in her own design. "You want the truth, Adrian," she whispered. "The first 3 years were pure theater. I played the role, memorized every line, hit every mark. But somewhere around year 4, the act blurred. By year 7, I'd wake up beside you and forget it was a lie. I'd feel safe, happy. Then why end it? Because happiness doesn't erase what I've done. The money, the fraud, the masks, they're all real. But so was the part of me that loved you. That's why I didn't just disappear this time. I wanted to do it right. To leave clean, give you an ending instead of another ghost." The door burst open. Agents flooded the penthouse, shouting commands that blurred into static. Marcus Hale strode through them, badge raised. "Ilara Martinelli, you're under arrest for wire fraud, money laundering, and identity theft." She didn't fight. She just looked at me one last time. "Check the safe in my office," she said softly. "Combination is our anniversary. Our fake anniversary." Then she was gone, swallowed by agents, handcuffs glinting under the city light. That was 3 months ago. She pled guilty to avoid a trial. 5 years in federal prison, maybe 3 with good behavior. The 30 million returned to Boston investors who'd thought they'd lost everything. Our marriage annulled for fraud. The FBI cleared me. I kept most of my assets. My mother cried for days, not out of shame, but grief. The grief of a parent watching her child learn the difference between truth and illusion. In her office safe, I found 2 things that still keep me awake. The first, a diamond ring, not the one I gave her, engraved inside, "For the marriage I wished we had." The second, a letter, handwritten, slanted, deliberate. "Adrian, if you're reading this, then you know everything. The bet was real. The fraud was real. My name is false. But the woman who loved Sunday mornings with you, who cried real tears when your mother was sick, who was proud when you closed your first deal without help, that woman was real too. I'm 2 people, Adrian, and one of them loved you completely. I'm sorry she wasn't strong enough to overcome the other. Please don't let this ruin you. You're a good man who deserved a better woman. Find her." E. Noah called it insanity, but I visited her once at Ottisville. She looked smaller in the orange jumpsuit, stripped of her designer armor, but her eyes were clearer than I ever seen them. Why? I asked. It was the only question that mattered. Because I grew up watching my mother break herself working 3 jobs while rich people stepped over us. After my father died, we had nothing but roaches and rent bills. I was brilliant, Harvard scholarship, top of my class, but none of that mattered. Not when you didn't have the right last name or the right skyline. Malcolm Webb tried to assault me at a company party. When I reported it, he laughed, said nobody would believe trash from Southie. So I took his money instead of justice. And me? I asked quietly. Were you just another Webb to you? She shook her head. You supposed to be. But then I learned about your father's suicide, how you rebuilt from ashes, how you treated your mother, how you knew the names of doormen and waiters. You were everything he wasn't, and that made it worse. Then why end the lie? Because by the time I realized I loved you, I was already 5 years in. How could I tell you the truth? Hi, honey. By the way, I'm a fugitive who stole $30 million and married you to wash it? Want Thai food for dinner? There was no answer to that. Just the hum of fluorescent lights and the sound of chains every time she moved.
My mother still checks on me every day. Judge Wren retired early, unable to reconcile how completely he'd been fooled. And me, I still live in the same penthouse, though it feels like a mausoleum now. Sometimes, when the city goes quiet, I think about that letter, about the version of her that might have been real, the woman who loved me between the lies. And I wonder if redemption ever counts when it arrives too late to save anyone.